I sat in the car for a long time, the engine off, my fingers tapping a restless rhythm on the steering wheel. On the back seat, a meticulously wrapped gift box caught the intermittent glow of the street lights. Today was my third wedding anniversary with my wife, Sophia. I'd taken a day off work specifically to surprise her. When I called her earlier, the cacophony of a karaoke lounge bled through the receiver. She said she was out with coworkers and told me not to wait up. I glanced at the time, 10:20 p.m., and decided to pick her up myself. I didn't call ahead. I wanted it to be a surprise. I drove straight to the location she'd shared, gift in hand. The hallway of the lounge pulsed with deafening music and the boisterous laughter of drunk patrons. I followed the GPS pin to her private room. The door was slightly ajar. As I reached to push it open, a scene through the crack in the door sent a shock of ice water through my veins. Through that narrow gap, I saw my wife Sophia locked in a tight embrace with another man. They were kissing. I knew him, Leo Donovan, her college sweetheart, the one she always talked about. He'd supposedly moved abroad years ago and had only recently returned to the States to start business. She told me they'd met up a few times, just old friends catching up. I never suspected a thing. My hand started to tremble, the gift box nearly slipping from my grasp. Inside the room, Sophia's arms were wrapped around Leo's neck. Her eyes filled with a kind of adoration I had never seen directed at me. "Leo, I've missed you so much." Her voice was soft, sincere, and every word was a needle to my soul. I didn't storm in. I didn't demand an explanation. I just turned around, silent and unseen, and walked away with the gift. On my way out, a security guard shot me a concerned look, my face probably ashen. He asked if I needed help. I just shook my head and stumbled toward the elevator. Back in the car, I stared into space for an age. My phone buzzed incessantly. A stream of texts from Sophia asking where I was, saying her party was over. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard, but I couldn't bring myself to type. This was my wedding anniversary, the one I planned a special gift for. What a pathetic joke. Inside the box was a custom-made diamond ring. My plan had been to take her to the restaurant where we had our first date, relive the memory, and then give her this. Who could have guessed the biggest surprise of the night would be this gut-wrenching horror? I started the car and drove into the darkness, letting the tears fall in silence. I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to a lakeside estate on the outskirts of the city. It was one of the few assets I owned personally, a place no one knew about except for Sophia. The lake was a sheet of black ink under the night sky, a perfect mirror of my heart. I slid open the floor-to-ceiling glass doors, letting the cold wind rush in, hoping it would numb the searing pain of betrayal. The phone kept ringing. I finally answered. "Lucas, where are you?" "We're done here." "Why aren't you picking up?" Sophia's voice was laced with concern, a sound that now made my stomach turn. I took a deep breath, forcing my own voice to remain steady. "Something came up. I'm not coming home tonight." "What happened? Do you need me to come help?" Her feigned worry was so convincing. It was as if the woman in the karaoke lounge had been someone else entirely. "It's an emergency at the office." I lied without missing a beat. "I might be tied up all night." "You should get some rest, Lucas." Her voice dropped, now tinged with disappointment and a hint of accusation. "Did you forget what today is? It's our anniversary." I almost laughed out loud, a bitter hollow sound. Instead, I clenched my jaw. "I remember. I was planning a surprise for you." "I'm sorry. Work is just crazy right now. I'll make it up to you when this is all over." After hanging up, I collapsed onto the sofa. The wedding ring in my hand glinted coldly in the moonlight. My phone was a gallery of our life together. Thousands of photos of Sophia and me, all brilliant smiles and happy moments. I scrolled through them one by one, my mind drifting back 3 years. I was so naive then, so certain our happiness was forever. I didn't sleep a wink. When dawn broke, I decided I wasn't going home and I wasn't going to the office. I needed time to think, to let the rage cool into something I could control. I needed to decide what to do next. I called in sick and set my phone to silent, tossing it aside. The sun sparkled on the lake's surface, a brilliant, shimmering contrast to the gloom that had settled over me. Around noon, a text message from a specific contact cut through my self-imposed isolation. It wasn't from Sophia. It was from Charles, my family's estate manager. "Sir, your father's condition has worsened. He is asking for you to return immediately." The message was a lightning bolt, jolting me out of my personal misery. I immediately called him back. Charles, what's wrong with my father? Sir, he had a major stroke. He's stable for now, but the doctors. Charles's voice cracked with emotion. He wants to see you. On the drive to the family mansion, the last argument I'd had with my father replayed in my head. It was 3 years ago. I told him I was marrying Sophia and that I was willing to renounce my position as heir to the Thorn Corporation to live a normal life with her. He was furious, yelling that I was blinded by a pretty face, that I couldn't see the difference between what was real and what was fleeting. To prove him wrong, to prove that Sophia loved me, not my name or my money, I walked away from my family. I hid my identity and became Lucas Thorn, a regular guy with a 9-to-5 job. Looking back now, maybe my father was right all along. His scathing words echoed in my mind. One day, you'll learn that her kind of love is cheap. Wealth, status, that's what's real. With that, you can have all the love you want. Outside the private wing of the hospital, several of my family's senior members were already waiting. When they saw me, their expressions were a mixture of concern, reproach, and overwhelming relief. Lucas, you're finally here. My uncle Marcus Thorne said, clapping a hand on my shoulder. Your father has been asking for you. I nodded, composed myself, and walked into the room. My father lay on the bed, his once commanding presence diminished, his face gaunt and pale. Tubes and wires snaking from his body. When he saw me, a flicker of light returned to his eyes. Son, his voice was weak. You're back. I fought back tears, taking his frail, cold hand in mine. Dad, I'm here. I'm so sorry for all these years. He shook his head, cutting me off. What's past is past. The company is in crisis. I don't have much time. The vultures are circling, just waiting for me to fall. He struggled to sit up, his eyes sharp and determined. Lucas, whatever issues we've had, it's time for you to come home. It's time for you to take over the family business. It's your responsibility. It's your destiny. I was silent for a moment, thinking of Sophia's betrayal of the naive fantasy I'd lived for 3 years. The irony was suffocating. I'll do it, I finally said, my voice steadier than I expected. I'll fulfill my duty as the eldest son of this family. A wave of relief washed over my father's face. He sank back into the pillows and closed his eyes. Good, good. I knew you'd come back. As I left the room, Charles followed me quietly into the hall. Sir, the board of directors is meeting tomorrow morning. You'll need to be prepared. I nodded. Make the arrangements. I need a full briefing on the state of the corporation over the last 3 years. Charles hesitated. Sir, and your wife? She's not to be told, I said, my voice like ice. Not yet. For the next few weeks, I didn't go home. I didn't contact Sophia. I sent her a single curt text saying I was on urgent business trip for a while. She called and texted relentlessly, her messages shifting from worried to questioning to outright angry. I gave only short noncommittal replies, offering no explanation. I threw every ounce of my energy into taking the reins of the Thorn Corporation. My father's health was improving, but the undercurrent of rebellion on the board was growing stronger. After a 3-year absence, many of them no longer saw me as a worthy successor. Mr. Thorne, are you certain about this restructuring plan? It's going to alienate several board members, my new assistant asked timidly. I gave a cold smile. Alienate them? Let them be alienated. Anyone who doesn't fall in line will be removed. 3 years was enough time for rot to set in at Thorn Corp. It's time for a deep clean. 2 weeks later, at a board meeting I chaired, I forced through a series of aggressive reforms, ousting several directors who had been thorns in my father's side for years. After the meeting, the company's stock price didn't just hold, it soared. The market had responded favorably. That night in my new office, overlooking the glittering cityscape, my phone lit up again. Sophia, it was the 30th missed call from her today. With a sigh, I finally answered, Lucas, where in the world are you? Why won't you answer my calls? Her voice was choked with tears. I thought something happened to you. I'm fine, I said, my voice terrifyingly calm. Just very busy. It might be a while longer before I'm back. What kind of business trip is this? Why are you being so secretive? I'm your wife, Lucas. I have a right to know. I paused. Sophia, trust me, you'll know everything when the time is right. After I hung up, I noticed my hand was shaking. Even after knowing what she'd done, the sound of her voice still twisted something inside me. But that flicker of pain was overshadowed by a chilling, resolute coldness. This marriage was over. She just didn't know it yet. A month passed. My return sent shock waves through the business world. Thorne Corporation stock was at an all-time high, and several new ventures had secured massive funding. The media began running stories about the sudden reappearance of the Thorne scion, speculating about the reason for my 3-year absence. I declined all interviews, but finally, it happened. A paparazzi photo of me walking out of the Thorne Tower ended up on the cover of Forbes. The headline was explosive. The Ghost of Wall Street. Thorne heir returns to claim his empire. I knew it was only a matter of time before Sophia saw it. In fact, I was waiting for it. I wanted to see how she would react when she discovered that the man she'd been married to for 3 years wasn't just a mid-level analyst, but the sole heir to the Thorne Corporation. Sure enough, that night, my personal phone blew up. Dozens of missed calls and a flood of texts, all from Sophia. The last one read, "Lucas, I am begging you to answer. I need to see you. We have to talk. If you ever cared about me at all, please give me a chance to explain." I stared at the screen, a humorless laugh catching in my throat. Cared? I'd given her 3 years of my genuine self. And what did I get in return? Her in the arms of her old flame on the very night I was planning to celebrate our life together. I didn't reply. I just tossed the phone aside and went back to my work. But deep down, a dark and meticulous plan was beginning to take shape. It was time to bring this charade to an end. The next time I saw Sophia was in the express elevator of the Thorne Tower. I knew she'd come looking for me, so I wasn't surprised. She was wearing a simple, elegant dress, her makeup perfectly applied, but it couldn't hide the panic in her eyes. "Lucas." She tried to step closer, but my assistant politely moved to block her path. "Mr. Thorne, your meeting with the Jane Group is in 10 minutes, he reminded me. I nodded, then looked at Sophia. "If you have something to say, you can come to my office." The elevator doors opened and she followed me down the long marbled hallway into the CEO's suite. The entire city skyline spread out before us through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I gestured for her to sit, but I remained standing, my back to her as I looked out at the view. "Why did you hide this from me?" she began, her voice thick with grievance. "For 3 years, you lied to me, letting me believe you were just some ordinary guy." I turned to face her, taking in her tear-brimmed eyes. "I lied to you. That's the first thing you have to say to me." "Well, what else would you call it?" she shot back, her voice rising. "You're the heir to the Thorne fortune, but you pretended to be a nobody. We were married for 3 years, living in that tiny apartment, pinching every penny. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was for me?" A cold smile touched my lips. "Humiliating? So, you were humiliated to be married to a regular guy? Or is it that if you'd known I was the Thorne heir, you wouldn't have gone running back to your old flame?" Her face went pale, her eyes darting away. "What? What are you talking about, Leo Donovan?" I said, enunciating each syllable. "Your college sweetheart the second he was back in the country. You two couldn't wait to pick up where you left off." Sophia's face was now completely white. "You? How did you know?" "On our anniversary, I went to that karaoke lounge to pick you up. I saw you two with my own eyes," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "I had a surprise planned for you that night. Instead, I got one of my own." Her eyes widened in shock. Then her expression shifted to frantic denial. "No, it's not what you think. I've been drinking and Leo took advantage. It was a mistake. You're the one I love, Lucas. It's always been you." I walked over to my desk, picked up a thick manila envelope, and tossed a stack of glossy 8x10 photos onto the coffee table in front of her. "A mistake? Are these mistakes, too? You've met with him at least 20 times in the last 2 months. Each time more intimate than the last. The private investigator I hired was very thorough. Crystal clear, aren't they?" Sophia completely fell apart. She sank to her knees, grabbing onto my leg. "Lucas, please forgive me. I know I was wrong. I don't know what I was thinking. Leo came back and he just wouldn't leave me alone and I was weak." I stared down at her, my expression unmoved. "And now that you know who I am, you're suddenly in love with me again." "No, it's not like that," she sobbed. "I always loved you. But after we got married, you were always working, always so focused on your job. Leo was different. He listened to me. He spent time with me." I shook her hand off my leg. "Enough. I worked those hours to build a better life for us. Every month, half of my salary went into a savings account. An account I was going to use to buy us a real home. I worked myself to the bone so you could have a better life. Her crying intensified. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Lucas, please just give me one more chance. I'll be a good wife. I swear I'll never betray you again. I watched her with cold detachment. It's too late. But I am curious. Does your old flame know who I really am? She shook her head. I haven't told him. Good, I said, a cruel smirk forming on my lips. Then let's see how he reacts when he finds out. I didn't move immediately. I let Sophia stew in her own anxiety. She sent me a constant barrage of texts and calls. She even tried to ambush me at the office again, crying and begging for forgiveness. I acted as if I were considering it, all while my real plan was falling into place. Meanwhile, I kept having him tailed. To my surprise, even after learning my true identity, Sophia didn't cut off contact with Leo. She just became more careful, more secretive. Sir, they spent last night at Mr. Donovan's apartment. They left separately at 7 a.m. This morning, the investigator reported, handing me a fresh stack of photos. Mrs. Thorne appeared distressed. It looked like they were arguing. I sneered. Arguing? I imagined they were debating whether to abandon their great love for the Thorne family fortune. The investigator hesitated. Based on lip-reading software, it appears Mr. Donovan was asking why she suddenly wanted to see him less. Mrs. Thorne said her husband might be suspicious and they needed to be more careful. The irony was astounding. She was begging for my forgiveness with one breath and sneaking off to her lover's bed with the next. How many faces did this woman have? Keep following them. Document everything I ordered. I want a full background check on Leo Donovan. I want to know everything about him. A few days later, Donovan's complete file was on my desk. He'd spent 10 years studying abroad, earning a master's degree. Upon returning to the U.S., he founded a small architectural design firm. It was barely afloat, propped up by a few key projects that gave it a veneer of success. The most interesting detail was that he was currently bidding on a major commercial complex, a project whose primary investor happened to be a subsidiary of the Thorne Corporation. A cold, predatory smile spread across my face. This was a gift from the heavens. Clear my schedule for next week, I told my assistant. I want to personally review all the proposals for the new downtown complex, especially the one from Donovan Designs. I'm very interested in that one. The gears of my revenge have begun to turn. I invited Leo Donovan to the Thorne Tower to present his proposal. Of course, I made no mention of who he'd be presenting to. He only knew he was meeting with the project's final decision-maker, never imagining that person was his lover's husband. In the boardroom, Leo stood in a sharp suit, radiating confidence. The moment I walked in, that confidence shattered, his expression freezing on his face. Mr. Thorne, he stammered, scrambling to his feet, his eyes wide with shock and fear. Mr. Donovan, a pleasure to finally meet you, I said, extending a hand with a practiced corporate smile. I've heard great things about your work. I'm looking forward to your presentation. He shook my hand, his palm slick with sweat. It's an honor to present for you personally, Mr. Thorne. Throughout the presentation, Leo was a nervous wreck. He fumbled his words several times, and I corrected him with a calm, patient smile each time. When the meeting was over, I asked him to stay behind. Mr. Donovan, your proposal has potential, but some of the details need refining, I said slowly. I'd like to discuss it with you further in a more private setting. Leo's anxiety ratcheted up another notch. Of course, Mr. Thorne, whatever you need, I'll make it happen. No need to be so formal, I said with a disarming smile, handing him a business card. This is my personal number. I'm hosting a small gala at the Atoria Grand next Friday evening. You can bring the revised proposal then. He took the card, his hand trembling slightly. I'll be there on time. Oh, and one more thing, I added as if it were an afterthought. Feel free to bring a guest. My wife will be in attendance. I'm sure you two would have plenty to talk about. The color drained from Leo Donovan's face, leaving it a sickly pale white. I understand. After he left, I sent a text to Sophia. I have an important gala next Friday. I need you to come with me. Seconds later, she replied, of course, I'll be there. Does this mean you're forgiving me? I didn't answer. I just sent a single smiling emoji. Over the next few days, the frequency of contact between Sophia and Leo skyrocketed. According to the PI's reports, they met twice and both meetings devolved into furious arguments. Clearly, they had figured out they were both invited to the same event and were in a panic trying to strategize. I watched from a distance, waiting for my prey to walk straight into the trap. On the night of the gala, the grand ballroom of the Atoria Grand was a glittering spectacle of wealth and power. I'd arranged for a few select members of the press to be there under the guise of covering the launch of Thorn Corporation's new flagship project. Sophia spent 2 hours getting ready, choosing her most expensive gown, her face a mask of meticulous makeup and desperate hope. She thought this was the beginning of our reconciliation. I just watched her preparations with an unnerving sense of calm, feeling nothing at all. "You look beautiful tonight," I said softly. It was the first compliment I'd given her since this all began. A flicker of hope ignited in Sophia's eyes. "Really? Are you still mad at me?" I shook my head. "Let's just put the past behind us. Tonight is very important to me. I need you to be at your best." She threw her arms around me, her voice trembling with emotion. "Lucas, I swear I will never let you down again. I'll be the perfect wife." I patted her back, the smile on my face never reaching my eyes. "Let's go. It's time." The ballroom was filled with the city's elite, a sea of fake smiles and polite conversation. Sophia clung to my arm like a triumphant princess, showcasing our seemingly perfect union to anyone who would look. Finally, Leo Donovan appeared in the doorway. He was alone, his face tense. He saw us and froze on the spot. "Mr. Donovan, welcome," I said, walking toward him and extending a hand. "Come, let me introduce you. This is my wife, Sophia." Leo's face was ashen as he managed a weak strangled smile. "Hello, Mrs. Thorne." Sophia's hand tightened on my arm, her body trembling almost imperceptibly. She forced a serene expression. "Hello, Mr. Donovan. I hear you're the lead designer on this new project." It was a masterful performance. If I hadn't seen the truth with my own eyes, no one would ever guess the sordid history between these two strangers. Halfway through the evening, I stood and walked to the podium. A hush fell over the room as all eyes turned to me. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here tonight." I began scanning the crowd with a smile. "Tonight, I'm not only here to announce the launch of a new era for Thorn Corporation, but also to share something a little more personal." I saw both Sophia's and Leo's expressions grow tense. 3 years ago, I walked away from my family and my name. I wanted to prove I could succeed without relying on the Thorn legacy. It was during that time that I met my wife, Sophia. I turned to look at her. For 3 years, she believed she was married to a simple office worker with no idea of my true identity. A wave of warm, appreciative laughter and applause filled the room. However, my tone suddenly dropped, becoming as cold and hard as steel. On the very day I planned to tell her the truth, our wedding anniversary, I discovered that she had betrayed me. The entire ballroom fell into a dead, shocked silence. Sophia's face went chalk white. Leo looked like he'd been turned to stone in his chair. My wife and her college sweetheart, who I'm sad to say is also with us tonight, Mr. Leo Donovan, were having an affair behind my back. As I spoke, I cued the technician to turn on a massive screen behind me. It lit up with a slideshow, crystal clear photos of Sophia and Leo kissing in a karaoke lounge, holding hands in a park, entering his apartment late at night, and leaving the next morning. Every photo was timestamped, dated, and geotagged. The most recent one was taken just days ago. Well after Sophia knew I was aware of the affair, the room erupted in a storm of gasps and whispers. The reporters went into a frenzy, their cameras flashing like strobe lights. Sophia collapsed in her chair, tears streaming down her face. Leo was frozen, his face a mask of pure horror. "I invited you all here tonight to witness 2 announcements." I continued, my voice cutting through the noise. "First, I am officially announcing my divorce from Sophia Thorne." I turned to her. "The divorce papers are ready. You can sign them whenever you like. You will not get a single penny." "And second," I said, my gaze shifting to Leo, "Mr. Donovan's firm, Donovan Designs, will be permanently blacklisted from working with Thorn Corporation and any of our partners. Your career in this city is over." Leo shot to his feet. "Mr. Thorne, you can't do this. This is a personal matter." I let out a short, sharp laugh. "A personal matter? Did you consider that when you were sleeping with another man's wife?" The chaos in the room intensified. Sophia scrambled onto the stage and fell to her knees before me. Lucas, please don't do this. I know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. I looked down at her, my eyes devoid of any warmth. A chance? I gave you 100 chances. From the moment I found out until this very second, you had endless opportunities to tell me the truth. But you chose to keep lying. You kept seeing him even after you knew who I was. No, that's not true. She wailed, her voice raw with desperation. I only met with him to break it off. I was going to end it for good. Really? I pulled out my phone and played an audio recording, amplifying it through the ballroom sound system. The voices were perfectly clear. It was Sophia and Leo. Leo, we have to be more careful. I think Lucas suspects something, but I'm not leaving you. You're the one I love. Just play along until I get enough money from the Thorns, then we can leave together. Sophia went limp, collapsing in a heap on the stage. In the ensuing chaos, Leo stormed the stage, pointing a trembling finger in my face. Lucas, who the hell do you think you are? You're nothing but a spoiled brat who inherited everything. Sophia suffered for 3 years with you. She only married you for the Thorn name in the first place. Of course, she was going to leave when she found out you'd lied to her. I didn't get angry. I just smiled. So, you admit it. Sophia married me for my family status and you two were having an affair behind my back. Leo realized his mistake, but it was too late. The reporters had captured every word. The camera flashes were blinding. Security, I said calmly, please escort these two out. The gala will continue. As the cameras rolled, Sophia and Leo were dragged from the ballroom in disgrace. Their scandal would be the headline on every news site by morning. The fallout from the gala was even more explosive than I'd anticipated. The story of our power couple implosion was everywhere. Thorn heir exposes wife's affair and public takedown gala of reckoning. Lucas Thorn's revenge relegates Leo Donovan from star architect to social pariah. Within 3 days, their reputations were annihilated. Leo's clients terminated their contracts en masse, forcing him to shut down his firm. The private school where Sophia taught fired her for moral turpitude that reflects poorly on the institution. I watched it all unfold without a shred of pity. My father, watching the news from his hospital bed, gave me a rare smile of approval. Good work. A woman like that doesn't deserve your pity. The divorce was finalized quickly. As stipulated, Sophia received nothing. Our apartment, our assets, everything went to me. Her lawyer tried to fight for a settlement, but faced with a mountain of evidence of her infidelity, they quickly folded. 3 days after the divorce was official, I received a text from her. Lucas, I know what I did was unforgivable. I'm not asking for you to forgive me. I just want a chance to apologize in person. For the sake of what we once had, please. I didn't reply. What we had, she had burned that to the ground with her endless betrayals. The only thing I felt was relief, as if a great weight had finally been lifted from my shoulders. At the same time, Leo began harassing me, his messages swinging wildly from threats to pathetic pleas for mercy. He begged me to call off the blacklisting to give him a chance to salvage his life. I ignored it all. This was the price of betrayal. They had earned it. A week later, my father's condition had improved dramatically. He was sitting up and even handling some minor business affairs from his room. He looked over my recent quarterly reports, nodding with satisfaction. Not bad. Your years away from the family seem to have sharpened your business instincts. I smiled faintly. You learn a few things when you have to fight for every dollar. And that woman, my father asked suddenly, have you heard from her? I shook my head. Not since the divorce. I have someone keeping an eye on them both just in case they do something reckless. My father, I knew from the beginning she wasn't right for you. The women of the Thorn family must possess more than just beauty. They need integrity, loyalty. I didn't respond, changing the subject instead. I had no desire to speak of Sophia ever again. But that very night, I received an urgent call from my private investigator. Mr. Thorn, there's been an incident. Leo Donovan and Sophia had a violent argument. A neighbor called the police. Donovan was just found dead in his home. It appears he was stabbed and Sophia is missing. I was speechless for a moment. What are the police saying? The scene shows signs of a major struggle. They found fingerprints and hair that are a likely match for Sophia. They've named her the #1 suspect and have issued an all-points bulletin for her arrest. I hung up the phone, a strange mix of emotions swirling within me. I never imagined it would go this far. Sophia killed Leo. This was beyond anything I had anticipated. I immediately ordered my personal security to be on high alert in case she decided to come after me next, but my gut told me she wouldn't, and I was right. Later that night, an email appeared in my personal inbox. It was from Sophia. The subject line read, "A final goodbye." The email was long. I read every word. "Lucas, by the time you read this, I'll probably be gone. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I just want to tell you the truth before I go. Yes, I betrayed you. It was the greatest mistake of my life. I'll admit that when I first agreed to marry you, the thought of being connected to the Thorne family was a factor. But over the years, living with you, I truly fell in love with you. Your kindness, your thoughtfulness, your sense of responsibility. Those were all things Leo never had. But when Leo came back, he wouldn't leave me alone. He used our past against me, threatening me with things I'd done that I wasn't proud of. I was weak and I fell back in his trap. Every moment I spent with him, I was consumed by guilt and shame. But I never had the courage to tell you. When you exposed everything at the gala, my world ended. Leo became even more vicious after that. He blackmailed me, demanding I go to you and beg for him, threatening to release more damaging information about me if I didn't. Tonight, he was drunk. He threatened to kill me. And I was just defending myself. I know my sins are beyond forgiveness. I hurt you, the only person who ever truly loved me. And I destroyed my own life. I don't deserve to live. This is the only way I can make amends. Lucas, I hope that one day you find someone who is truly worthy of you. Forever in your debt. Sophia. After reading the email, I scoffed. A pathetic farewell designed to make me feel guilty. To haunt me, I felt nothing. I closed my laptop, walked to the window, and stared out at the distant city lights. Tomorrow's headlines would have a new story to tell, and this time it would be the definitive end. Sophia's body was found the next day. The cause of death was an overdose of sleeping pills in her apartment. She had left a detailed suicide note confessing to killing Leo Donovan in self-defense and explaining her decision to end her own life. I felt a flicker of surprise at her final decisive act, but not a single pang of heartbreak. Some people in the media called me heartless, but the majority of public opinion sided with me. The consensus was that betrayers get what they deserve. I didn't care what any of them thought. Life went on, and the Thorne Corporation demanded my full attention. The storm would pass and I had finally and completely severed myself from that chapter of my life. 6 months later, the scandal had all but faded from public memory. Under my leadership, the Thorne Corporation was breaking every performance record. I had shed the media label of the scorned husband and was once again known as a business prodigy, one of the city's most powerful young titans. Everything was starting.